The candy. When Peppa became a teenager, everything started to change. Friends drifted away. Her parents became annoying. And one day, while standing alone behind the school, a man in a blue cloak approached her and held out a box. Try it. These aren't just candies. They feel like being loved. At first, Peppa didn't believe him, but the candies really did something. After the first, she laughed until she cried. After the second, she felt loved. And after the third, the world became soft and warm, like childhood. She started selling them to classmates. Everyone wanted them. Everyone paid, even the teachers. Her mother asked, "Where did you get this money?" Peppa just shrugged, and Daddy Pig said, "You know sweets are bad for you." But these weren't sweet. They had no taste, only the effect. A week later, George disappeared. He never came home. Peppa found one of the candies in his room, but it had turned pitch black. Later, she learned, each box can only be opened once. If you open it again, you must give something in return. Peppa opened it a second time, but there were no candies. Inside was George's head with crosses over his eyes. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. "Open up, police!" Peppa and George happily jumped in a muddy puddle. When they got home, Mama Pig asked Peppa to go to the attic for a jar of jam. The attic was dark and dusty. At the end of the room, Peppa saw a jar, but nearby stood a strange old lamp she had never seen before. Curious, she picked it up and took it to George. She eagerly rubbed it. Suddenly, the room filled with swirling mist, and a skeleton-like silhouette appeared before her, wearing a hat, boots, and holding a cane. Peppa and George were very frightened, but they realized it was a genie. Peppa made a wish for herself. The creature grinned eerily and said, "At your service." Meanwhile, Mama and Papa Pig were busy. Mama was making jam and Papa was working in his study. They had no idea what was happening in the nursery. Peppa wished that no one would ever tell her what to do and that she could do whatever she wanted. George, trembling, exclaimed, "Peppa, why are you making that wish?" Suddenly, the creature disappeared, and happy Peppa ran to tell her parents about her adventure. But when she entered the study, no one was there anymore. The kitchen was also empty. Mammy and Daddy Pig had vanished. Panic seized Peppa. She quickly ran back to the nursery to cancel her wish. When the creature reappeared, Peppa and George were horrified. Their parents, wrapped in thin tentacles, were trapped under the creature's ribs. It grinned eerily. Peppa demanded everything be undone, but the skeleton only smirked. "Silly piglet, now you are all in my power." Suddenly, their house found itself in another world where only darkness reigned. Now they were new residents of a creepy lamp. In the morning, Peppa discovered that her mom had disappeared. An oppressive silence filled the house. On the table lay a tattered note. "To find your mom, open the right door, but remember, not all doors lead back." Her heart beat faster. There were many doors in the house. Each one seemed alive, as if waiting for her. The first door was dark. Behind it was a room with mirrors, in which she saw no reflection. When Peppa approached one of them, she saw her mom, staring at her with black eyes and whispering,
"You shouldn't come in here."
Suddenly, the mirror cracked and shattered. From the shards appeared a sinister shadow. Peppa screamed and ran out into the corridor. The second door was covered in cobwebs. Behind it was a room filled with clocks, all showing different times. When Peppa touched them, strange voices suddenly echoed. The clocks started ticking in sync with her heartbeat. She heard her mom's voice.
"I'm here, or not."
Terrified, Peppa ran out of the room. The third door was long. The walls were covered with strange symbols. At the end of the corridor appeared her mom with black eyes. She quickly started approaching her. Peppa noticed fangs on her mom and ran into the next room, which had many doors, but one of them opened by itself. Behind it was the same room where she woke up that morning. Peppa chose the last door with a bright handle. She opened it and found herself in a dimly lit room. There stood her mom, but she looked unrecognizable, eyes as black as night, face twisted into a terrible smile. Her mom whispered through clenched teeth,
"You found me, but I'm no longer who I was."
At that moment, the walls cracked and began to crumble. The floor seemed alive. Peppa found herself in an empty space without any doors. Suddenly, she woke up in her bed. She noticed a small piece of glass on the floor. When she picked it up, her mother's reflection appeared before her, smiling sinisterly and whispering,
Did you think it was all just a dream? I'm always here, inside your head.
Deleted Peppa Pig episode, The Spider. This Peppa Pig episode was never aired on television. It was removed. And now it's clear why. It all started like a normal day. George was playing on the carpet, Peppa was organizing her toys, and Daddy Pig was reading the newspaper. Mummy Pig was cooking breakfast. Everything felt calm, until George screamed. He said something had bitten him on his leg, 2 tiny puncture marks. No one paid much attention. A few hours later, George became sluggish. His face turned pale. He wasn't talking or eating. He just sat, breathing heavily. By evening, he stopped moving. That night, Peppa woke up to a strange noise. There was a rustling sound coming from the living room. George's bed was empty. Peppa went to look for him, and she found him. In the corner of the living room hung a web, huge like a tent, and inside it, George. He was stuck to the wall with webbing. His eyes were open, black, but he didn't move. His stomach was swollen. Something was moving inside. An hour later, Daddy Pig disappeared. Then Mummy Pig. Peppa was alone. The web was growing. It wrapped around furniture, walls, and the ceiling. The house was turning into a cocoon. She heard breathing. Behind her, she turned. The spider. Huge, black, hairy, crawling along the walls. It moved toward George. One leg touched his stomach. The swelling cracked open. From inside crawled a small spider, spider-like, with a monstrous version of George's face. It twitched. Peppa ran to her room. The last thing she saw, her parents already hanging from the ceiling. Then she saw their faces, distorted and terrifying. Threads were pulling out of their mouths. Peppa Pig, deleted episode, The Round Head. George started drawing strange pictures. In each one, a creature with a round head and white eyes, no arms, no legs, just a body. It comes at night, George whispered. I saw it. Peppa didn't believe him, but that night she woke up, and in the corner of her room, something was lying there, a huge round head. It didn't move, but it was breathing. When she turned on the light, it vanished. The next night, her flashlight went out. She heard something crawling under the bed, no footsteps, just a sticky sliding sound. Peppa looked down, and it was there. Face inches away, head round, eyes white. In the morning, George's eyes had turned completely gray. He didn't speak. He just stared at Peppa, and then it came again. From the wall, across the ceiling. It stopped right above her, and then the words,
Now you've seen me too.